Welcome to Tokyosaurus. So what's up in Japan? So as millions of people around the world sat down or stood up in many cases to watch episode 130 of Dragon Ball Super, I think it's pretty obvious to any or all that just watched this episode that they just dropped the greatest Dragon Ball episode of all time. The entire episode was hype, but that sequence with Goku getting angrier than I think we've ever seen him be was quite a sight to behold. I think the last time we've seen him get this close to completely losing it was with his fight with Frieza on Namek after Krillin exploded. After Goku gets angry and starts to beat down, the sequence represents the best animation I've ever seen in a Dragon Ball Super or any Dragon Ball episode by far. The movements of both Jiren and Goku felt so much smoother than anything else we've seen before, as if the frame rate went up just for that sequence. There are just so many little details in the sequence, and I bet none of you actually noticed that Goku at one point created ki balls while he was in midair just so he can ride them with his feet to skate up Jiren's ki blasts in effort to close the distance between him and Jiren even quicker. And this whole skating on ki blast thing happened all in just under 3 seconds. The animation along with the epic soundtrack alone can already put this episode amongst the hypest fights in all of Dragon Ball. But what is it about fighting Jiren here that really puts this fight amongst the greatest in all of Dragon Ball? Because just a few episodes ago, when they revealed Jiren's backstory, everyone was pretty much hating on him as his character seemed kind of cliche and not super interesting. But after watching this episode, Jiren became much more fleshed out as a character for me, so let me explain why. Now to start off, a running theme in Dragon Ball is that Goku somehow always manages to invoke change in his opponents and somehow befriends them or becomes a friendly rival. And if you've noticed, when Krillin started talking about Goku's entire life, with the flashbacks to each of them starting off as an enemy, with the exception of Gohan, that the entire Universe 7 roster is in fact just a big summary to Goku's entire life. Starting with Krillin, then Tien, then Piccolo, then Vegeta, all the way to the androids. Even though someone like Frieza hasn't turned into a good guy, Goku has definitely earned Frieza's respect as a rival, and thus can work together in such a tournament, as we've seen him do multiple times. But at the same time, Goku understands that these friends that he's made along the way are also the driving force to why he never gives up. And that is the crux to Jiren's problem with Goku. Because Jiren has also probably believed in something similar to that before his teacher got wrecked by the evildoer. After getting abandoned by his remaining friends, Jiren threw those set of values away and adopted new ones to become who he is now. But the key part of it all is that we all know Jiren was once also very much like Goku, where he treasured friendship and trust, which his teacher had obviously taught him. But because he has given up on those values years ago, when he looks at Ultra Instinct Master to Goku now, it's like seeing someone who actually went for his dreams all the way and somehow made it work and succeeded where he failed. Jiren finally speaks his mind by saying, "Who cares about friendship? Who cares about trust? I won't believe in such power, and to accept that would be to deny everything I have ever been. I won't believe in such power that is easily erased." Now comes the second part where he threw a ki blast at the spectator stand. Jiren's intention here was definitely not to actually kill anybody in the stands, because if you haven't noticed, that stand has probably more than 5 characters that can deflect a Jiren ki blast with their fingernails. He threw the ki blast just to make a point, and it was an effort to demonstrate to Goku that his so-called friends that he draws power from can so easily be erased. To Jiren, that is not a strength but a weakness. And it was in this moment that we see Jiren go full circle here, because he has truly become his own worst nightmare. He has now become the one that people need to be protected against. Jiren is supposed to be like Batman. He never kills. But the fact that he even showed the gesture of killing innocent bystanders to show a point, he has crossed his own line and has stepped into madness. The next line is what I believe to be a great example of why Dragon Ball has such a great appeal to everyone from young kids all the way to adults. Goku says he doesn't believe he's a hero of justice or anything of that sort, but those who hurt my friends, I won't forgive. At the surface, it's a pretty cliche line, typical shonen fare, but if we look just a little deeper, everything finally fits together like a giant puzzle. That line that Goku just said is the core motivation for both Jiren and Goku, exactly the same to the last word. Jiren's journey from the terrible events in his childhood, those who hurt his family, he will never forgive. That's why he spent his life to train in order to remove that evil. And then, when he loses his teachers and friends to the evildoer again, those who hurt his friends he will still never forgive, which is why he seeked ultimate power. Although the way in which he seeks power has changed, it all came down to the same motivation. And it was because those who hurt his friends, teacher and family were more powerful than him, and therefore he needs more power. Along the way, he has lost sight of his own motivation and why he seeked the power to begin with. And when we see Jiren finally downed by Goku, he asks Goku, "Why don't you finish me already?" To which Goku responds, "A guy like you probably already realizes what I'm talking about." So Goku already knew that Jiren understood him, but just chooses to not acknowledge it. Jiren looks away ashamed, which is enough confirmation to know that Jiren did in fact know what Goku was talking about. He tells Goku to just knock him off the stage already, to which Goku actually winces at because Jiren at this point still hasn't come to terms with his realization. Goku starts his ki blast slowly, and Jiren closes his eyes in defeat. At this point, we still do not know whether or not Jiren has finally come to terms with himself, but it is obvious that Jiren here was not only battling Goku, but also constantly battling himself, which might explain why he always needs to meditate, which also might explain why Jiren, who is a being stronger than a god of destruction, curiously doesn't have Ultra Instinct. Ultra Instinct requires the mind to get out of the way essentially, and it seems like that might actually be Jiren's weakest point. So if Jiren can actually move on from his past and live in the present, he might actually be able to unlock Ultra Instinct before the end of the final episode next week. In a recent interview, the director said that this arc is as much Goku's story as it is Jiren's story, so we can probably expect him to show us Jiren's acceptance of himself in the final episode. Jiren has definitely stepped up from a bland character to a pretty interesting guy in episode 130, and I hope they really give him the closure he deserves in the final showing of Dragon Ball Super. Anyways, what did you guys think of this fight, Jiren, or this episode? Do you guys think this is the best Dragon Ball episode to date? As usual, I left a poll for you guys up there, but also let me know down in the comments below. Don't forget to drop a thumbs up before you leave, subscribe, and hit that bell for notifications if you want to be updated with the latest that's going on in Japan, and I'll see you guys in the next one.